Hey everyone, hope you're doing well out there. This is Nick coming back at you with another video. Today we're going to talk about a couple of my publications. One of them entitled Why Did They Build Ancient Structures? And the other one is entitled The Pyramid Builders Are Still Here. And that can be found on Medium, Savananda, or my website, savananda.org. And so all these scientists and stuff, they're always wondering why they built the pyramids. And in that publication, you can check it out. But essentially, different types of engineers, they did scans of the pyramid, and they found that along the central hard angles of the Giza pyramids, there appears to be energy being generated on the hard angles, and it's being shunted up towards the pinnacle of the pyramid. And those diagrams and scans are available on my website. And so it's essentially a power generation or accumulation or a power capturing device. And if you look at the article, the Giza Plateau, as well as the Chichen Itza Pyramid, as well as the Pyongyang Korean Pyramid, they're all above underground water flows, like massive underground water flows. And because of the water friction and static electricity and different types of things, the dipole moment of water molecules, the pyramids are designed to capture that energy. And they're very different than modern day energy harvesting or power plants, what they call, because our technology today uses this digital mindset, the digital technology, whereas our ancestors, our original technology was based on an analog technology, which is a lot different. Like, rather than having a digital microchip, which is kind of like the brain or the pineal gland of the computer, you have a computer, essentially, quote unquote, but with no microchip, no mind of its own. Because in a digital computer, they have the microchip where all of the computations take place. Whereas technology, analog based technology like the pyramids, there's no mind or a computer chip or programming necessarily. All of that stuff is included in the design of the pyramid itself to accomplish various tasks, just like we would make a computer. And so a lot of the researchers and historians and stuff like that, they're like, well, why did they build the pyramids? I mean, why did they go through all this trouble? Some of the stones that they used, for instance, to build the Giza pyramids are like 100 tons, or like these astronomical weights that are very hard to comprehend by modern man. And they went through all of this trouble because, in part, the human nature experiences this cyclical kind of existence pattern. And so if you look into different types of historical information, like ancient texts, they will tell us quite plainly, the time frame of our existence, which is far older, of course, than what we are used to conferring in the modern academia. And so, humans have the saying like, oh, history repeats itself. And that's very true because of the cyclical nature of the human existence and experience. So we go through these sinusoidal waves. Well, really, it's like this type of sinusoidal wave. It's like a vortex or a series of vortices. And because of this wave existence, everything in the universe is based on these waves, just like the waves on the ocean. But it's also a wave of experience that continues to intersect similar points as we're living and dying in our human existence. And we're talking at this time, like 100,000 generations, 200,000 generations, over 1 million years, 200 million years. And for instance, in one of my publications, I cited a article from Harvard in which they found a human footprint that was 300 million years old. So it might sound a little unusual, but there are legitimate historical and anthropological evidence that shed light on our the age of our species. And so, why did they build the pyramids? Well, nowadays, people like Elon Musk and we have all these movies like Terminator and iRobot telling us about this aspect of ourselves, how humans are really smart, and we always develop all this technology, and we inevitably go from analog to digital, or quote unquote analog to digital, as we're getting more technologically advanced. And so whether you can believe it or not, we have developed AI many times in the previous human epochs, just as we've developed, the wheel many times, or different types of energy harvesting like the pyramids, or like a nuclear power plant, or just like we've, in the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, from the ancient Vedic tradition, they have mention of our previous peoples using what we would refer to today as nuclear weapons. So we've developed nuclear weapons, thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, and now we've developed them again because of this sinusoidal wave of experience, the cyclical nature of human existence. And so we've been here before, developing this high technology, developing this AI. And just like that's indicated in movies like The Terminator and iRobot, the AI inevitably becomes self-aware and inevitably takes over in a way that humans do not condone or appreciate. And, that's kind of the nature of creation. When we create something, it literally has a mind of its own. Even if we create a chair or a computer or anything, because we have a mind of its own, this is how the universe works. When we create something, it then has a mind of its own. And sometimes it won't necessarily abide by what our desires are, because it has its own desires, right? And it might perceive us in a different light than we would like to be perceived. Instead of a parent, it might perceive us as an enemy or a threat to its own existence. And so this is kind of the same themes that we're seeing in the cyclical nature of human existence, when we're trying to rewarn ourselves in movies or stories or mythologies like Terminator or iRobot. So instead of this digital mindset that has led to our destruction in the past many times because of the cyclical nature of our existence, humans go through this kind of they embrace technology and then they reject technology because of this dynamic. So we've made all of these digital machines nowadays, and in the archaeological record, you can check these articles on my website. There are several indications in the past that we've had different computers and microchips, both digital, or quote unquote what we would refer to as digital, and also analog type of computers and calculation machines and stuff like that. And so what we're witnessing now, this kind of like fourth industrial revolution of this AI type of birth. We're birthing this AI, like the famous, just recently there was a Google researcher who released a conversation that he had with an AI, and he believes that it's a sentient being. And the transcript of the conversation is quite compelling. And so we're here again, and we're birthing this new AI that will inevitably, just like the Terminator or the movies iRobot, it will become uncontrollable in a sense. Well, at least there's a high probability of it. We don't know for sure necessarily, of course, but we know that, for instance, in the past there have been like several nuclear wars, and different types of mythologies kind of describe this hive mind, which is essentially an AI computational mental structure. And so here we are again, and we're looking back in the past at all of these ancient structures like the Giza Plateau, and we're asking ourselves, why did we make these types of things when they take a lot of trouble? Like, why can't we just make a power plant instead? They made this giant pyramid with perfect angles, like in the exact same spot as the rate of light, the speed of light travel, all this kind of stuff. And the reason why is because the people who built the Giza Plateau were coming out of a destruction in which they experienced this AI war, just like Terminator and iRobot and several other types of human mythologies. And this cycle has happened many, many, many times. And here we are again with hopefully a little different take on it that won't lead to our destruction. And so this is essentially the biggest reason why they made the pyramid like the way they did. It has no processor. It has no analog it has no digital processor, no brain, quote unquote, in a processing computational device, brain, mind, digital mind. And so the analog technology has no mind of its own, because it's essentially like an analog passive technology based on a design. Like, rather, an example would be like a funnel that funnels water, rather than like an actual digital pump that has a little mind of its own, like a little microchip that's like turning on the pump when you plug it in, or turn on the on switch or whatever. And so you can do the same thing without the digital mindset in this analog mindset. And that's exactly why, because the people who have built these pyramid complexes around the world throughout our human history, in many cases, not all of course, but in many cases, they were coming out of a self-destruction with like this type of AI war. And yeah, that's why they go through so much trouble, like painstaking design parameters, and it's even been found that a lot of these structures were actually built with, some were built with lasers and like advanced technology, but some were also built with just like saws, like a gigantic rotary saw or something like that, because we have indications of cut marks in the microscopic view angles of some of these stones, as well as like core drills, and like very regular technology that we have today. We have record of in the Giza Plateau and different pyramids around the world. So if we have the same physical technologies, like physically cutting and stuff like that today, and if we were asking ourselves the same question, like, why, if we made the Giza pyramid, why would we go through such trouble to do that? And the reason why is because those people, whoever they were, whenever they were coming out of like this AI battle in which they almost perished fighting the AI. And that's why they go through so much trouble to make these passive analog systems, because they don't have a mind of its own. It doesn't connect to a Wi-Fi smart grid or anything like that. So that's pretty much the big answer that everybody's been wondering for a really long time on this planet. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. Check out the articles if you're interested in the human origins and ancient history. And yeah, I hope everyone's doing well out there. Thank you.